been learning so much about the sport of ski mountaineering here and off the podium over the last few weeks. And I'm so excited to welcome today's guest because not only is he tracking towards being an Olympian in the sport of ski mountaineering, he already is an Olympian in the sport of cross-country skiing, a triple Olympian to be precise, and still gunning for a fourth appearance in that sport while adding ski mountaineering to it. Could be creating so many levels of history next year in Milano Cortina, and it's such an honour to be able to welcome him to the show to learn about his career in both sports and how this is all going to play out. It's a pleasure to welcome Phil Bellingham. Phil, welcome to Off the Podium.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. That was a pretty big introduction. Hopefully I can live up to it all.
We try our very best to give our guests a big head at the beginning, because in that way, if it goes downhill, at least you can just remember the start, right? And then you go, oh, you know, first 5 minutes were good, but then it just went to shit after that. I don't know what he was going on with that one. I wanted to start off, though, like, you're from a place called Mount Beauty. Now, is this the most Australian mountain on the planet? Because I got to admit, I think that, you know, there's some great names in this country, but Mount Beauty, that's just some person's rocked up one day and gone, that's a bloody good mountain. It's a beauty. Yeah, right, Mount Beauty. I mean, tell us a bit about Mount Beauty, the most Australian mountain on the planet.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit like that. It looks pretty great. And Mount Beauty has the slogan, the name says it all. So that says a little bit about the place. But no, it's pretty awesome. It's sort of nestled in the heart of the high country in Victoria, just below Falls Creek Ski Resort. So yeah, just at the head of the valley there. So it's pretty accessible to get on snow, and but it's also has lots of other activities down in the valley as well. Just a pretty genuine mountain town. Yeah.
Great. And it's sort of one of these things that I can imagine when you grow up a place like that, you're basically born to ski, because I believe you pretty much were born to ski, Phil. You had skis on your feet at about 18 months old and kind of went from there. Was this sort of always the desire for you to push towards an Olympic appearance in skiing in some form?
Yeah, I guess I was pretty fortunate in that, like I was put on skis at a super young age. My parents were really into skiing, and they were even working as ski instructors at periods of time in their life. So that contributed pretty hugely to, I guess, my skiing career, or what it could be. As I grew up skiing, like I never really thought that I would end up going to the Olympics or anything like that, but I love the racing and I love competing and just doing everything on snow, really, whether it was downhill skiing or cross-country skiing or backcountry skiing. I just enjoyed all of it and loved it. So did heaps of it. And I guess from there, I got better at it.
Was cross-country the one that kind of always stood out for you? I mean, you mentioned obviously doing a bit of downhill skiing and that. Did you sort of dabble a lot in that competitively, or sort of, I guess, what drew you more so to the cross-country side of things than, say, an alpine skiing?
Well, I reckon when I was younger, I probably enjoyed downhill skiing more, and like doing all the park stuff, hitting the jumps and all that sort of stuff. Like I loved that, and probably would have, I guess, probably enjoyed doing it more so. But I guess I just had a bit of success in cross country because I started racing, and I was sort of a member of the Victorian junior team, and the pathway for me to, I guess, be more successful in that sport seemed easier. So I guess I kind of just gravitated towards that because the way it was unfolding. But yeah, I did a little bit of racing on downhill skis and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I just wasn't as successful at a young age, I guess.
In other sports, were you dabbling in many of those? So sort of outside the skiing side of things, were you just like typical Aussie kid playing 1,001 different sports whenever you could outside of the skiing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just loved playing all sports. Like I played a lot of footy as a kid and raced mountain bikes and stuff like that as well. But yeah, I was kind of just doing everything as a young kid, playing cricket and swimming, and yeah, pretty much anything I could get my hands on. Just loved that. Yep.
Got to ask the question then on the footy front. Who's your team? I don't know what is technically the closest team to Mountain Beauty when you sort of look at a map of Melbourne or Geelong or something like that.
Yeah, look, my AFL team when I was younger was the Melbourne Demons.
Right.
I kind of just sort of followed them for a bit because my old man was he was a Demons supporter, so I kind of did that. but I guess the local footy team, they're the Mount Beauty Dedarang Bombers. So
Oh, wow.
um, that's probably, I'm more passionate about them than I am the Melbourne Demons, I guess.
What league is that in? Is that sort of like a very regional, rural Victorian league?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, pretty regional. It's Tallangatta and District Football League.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are they? How were they growing up? Were they a team that they were good to cheer for, or bit of success?
Yeah, we went okay. Like in junior footy, yeah, under 17s and stuff. We made some finals, maybe even a preliminary final. And then
Right.
I played with them up until last year,
Oh,
just for a bit
wow.
of fun and stuff. So I was still playing a bit. A couple of years ago, we made it through into the finals, a couple of rounds into the finals. So they went all right, but they're struggling a bit at the moment. Hopefully, I think they're going to have a rebuild soon. So we'll see how they go.
Yeah, there might be a few coaches in the AFL available. They could get Simon Goodwin or something, pinch him from the Demons, a few of them sort of
Yeah,
floating
they might
around.
need something like that.
Why not? Why not? It's great that you're still playing though. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, it sounds like you're just, constantly always trying out or keep going with different sports and to kind of add to it as well. So what do they sort of get there and they like? I mean, obviously you know everybody there probably very, very well, but he's triple Olympian Phil Bellingham just kicking a footy on a Saturday afternoon with us. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess I don't really highlight that too much. I just rock up as like Phil from Mount Beauty as they do. Like I've known a lot of the guys that play there for many years since like I grew up with them and that sort of thing. So it's kind of more just a local thing. And I guess they know I ski and every now and then I have to miss a few games to have a ski race or whatever. And they know that and that's all right. So
they can go without you for a couple of rounds. They know that you're busy. So, kind of works out a little bit that way. With the cross country skiing side of things, though, did it sort of reach a point when you are making your way up through the world stage, heading overseas, competing for Australia, that the Olympics were a possibility? And sort of, do you remember that moment where that maybe switched focus and this became the goal that you were going to strive to make it to the Olympics?
Yeah, for sure. I guess it was probably the season before my first Olympics that I really first realized that it might be a possibility. I was sort of training and racing and I'd been overseas a couple of times, but it wasn't until I made a big step up with my race results that I could sort of see the pathway forward and see that it might be possible and what I could do and that I might actually be able to reach that level. But up until then, it had sort of just been, I guess, going to the Olympics was something in the background that I never really thought I would end up doing or going to. Yeah.
And when that happened, though, when you make a team, when you are selected to go to Sochi, I mean, is that a pretty special moment then if you kind of didn't think that was possible for some time?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's amazing. And I kind of couldn't really believe it. And it wasn't until I was actually there and sort of even until I put myself on the start line that it really sunk in because it was all a little bit surreal and I kind of just never really thought I would end up being there. So it did take a lot to sink in. And even afterwards, you have a little bit of like imposter syndrome, like, oh, I can't really believe I just did that. You don't know whether you really belong there and that sort of thing. So, it's still a huge thing, and it does take a while for all of that to sink in. Yeah.
And Sochi, a pretty unique place as well. They were some interesting Olympic Games to go to in Russia there. I mean, comparing the three Olympics that you've been to, Phil, I mean, was that the most unique between that Pyeongchang and Beijing?
Yeah, it's funny. They were all pretty unique. Sochi was pretty wild. They'd spent the most amount of money. I think it was like $50+ billion to have those Olympic Games. And they'd basically created the Olympic Village out of nothing, having nothing previously been in that location. So it was all pretty extravagant and a little bit random where the Olympics were held because there was previously nothing there. So that was quite unique. obviously Beijing, that was pretty good too because it was in the middle of COVID, and yeah, we're there racing like the biggest events of our lifetime, I guess, and there's no one there watching, so that was pretty strange as well. And then even like Pyeongchang, South Korea, that was pretty different. Like, yeah, Southeast Asia, that comes with its own kind of set of unique qualities as well, I guess.
Because Italy's basically going to almost be your first. I mean, technically Sochi's Europe, but I mean, Italy is, I guess, no offense to Russia, proper Europe, right? So like, you know, where there's more traditional, I guess, also cross-country fans and things that you're used to very much in the World Cup and the World Championship stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it'll be the first, Central European Olympics that I would go to if I get to go. And I think that in itself would be pretty special just because you've got people and countries who really understand the winter sports, and like this is sort of where those winter sports have originated from. So there's just a greater like respect and following that goes with that. And I think that'll be a completely different experience because of that.
In terms of, you know, mentioning those almost imposter syndrome feelings that you have after Sochi, does that then mean when you get to Beijing that because it's your third Olympics, you're almost used to it, if that makes sense, and that kind of then you're able to be in a position where you were perhaps getting advice and help from some of your other competitors in Sochi, you're then the reverse of that. You're kind of the senior member on the team and helping out like that. Like, how do you feel now that as a triple Olympian, that it's obviously, you know, part of your job now going to these events?
Yeah, for sure. Like there was definitely with the first time, maybe you think you got lucky or it was an amazing experience or whatever. But by the time, you've done two or three, it's sort of like it's so ingrained in your life now, or it kind of changes your life a lot in some ways. That you sort of warm to it and you feel like you kind of deserve to be there a bit more, especially because you start getting, I guess, folded into the family that is there. Like you start to know all the other athletes from all the other sports, and you know the staff members and everyone who works as part of the Australian Olympic Committee, and so you're kind of taken into the fold of the Australian Olympic team a bit more, which just makes you feel like you deserve to be there a bit more, I guess. And like you then in turn are sort of, I guess, offering advice if they ask for it to the younger athletes and that sort of stuff. So it does change a bit as you go through. Yeah.
The thing that I also always notice with the cross country skiers is that it is seemingly a very close community. I remember we had Sevi on not long after Beijing and we were talking about this, and then even things I know in the lead up to Beijing, how much fun you guys are having with a lot of the posts. There was dancing videos. Like you guys, like seems like you're always just having a bunch of fun there as well. I mean, how is cross country skiing in Australia right now, Phil? I guess I want to ask because you've been in it for a while. I mean, it always seems like we're sending a pretty decent team to the Olympics. You know, we're not short of the athletes, but it's sadly still a sport that we don't really seem to want to talk about too much. You know, even during the Olympics, it seems. So, like, how are we in the sport right now in Australia?
Yeah. It's a funny question. Like, it's definitely at the moment the team is as strong as it's ever been. There's quite a depth of athletes who are getting good results and performing really well, but I guess we're just not performing to the level where we're going to get medals at the Olympics. So, and I guess that's probably the main thing for people from back home. Like they want to see medals or maybe top 10 results or something like that. So we're still a little bit like off that level, but the sport has gone forward in terms of the results that the individuals are getting now, and just with the number of athletes that are qualifying for the Olympics because of our overall nation ranking within the sport. So from an elite athlete standpoint, like the sport is going forward, but from the general participation of cross-country skiing in Australia, well, I'm not sure whether it's going forward or whether it's going backwards or whether it's staying where it is. It's pretty hard to tell, but just because the sport itself is quite small and almost a little bit still grassroots like in Australia, it's not a mass participation sport. And as you say, it doesn't have a big following or any huge financial backing. So it kind of flies under the radar a lot. But that's also not a bad thing for us in some regards.
And we've just obviously seen earlier this year, Rosie, of course, get a podium in the junior world championship, which that obviously is a big deal for Australia. I believe that was our first ever international medal in the sport of cross-country skiing. I mean, to have someone like Rosie coming onto the scene, getting a bit of attention to the sport, showcasing that, as you were saying, maybe, the success not now, but this could lead to something potentially down the line for someone like Rosie or other athletes?
Yeah, for sure. Like that result in itself was amazing. And I guess it does just put a spotlight on Australia and kind of does prove that, there is potential success to be had within this sport for this team. And quite possibly Rosie will continue to have, great success going forward. Time will tell. But she's already had some good results on the World Cup and at World Championships directly after that result. So, she's got a whole lot of potential to do well. But also I think it's a reflection of the direction that the team is going at the moment. Like, it's not just her that's performing well. There's a bunch of other guys and girls who have also made a big step up in the sport, which is really positive to see. And it's also pretty cool to just be a part of and see what those guys are doing and kind of be a part of that momentum as well, because it uplifts everyone that's involved.
And it just always seems like you guys are having fun. I mean, you and Sebi look like you have a pretty close bond. I was watching some of the clips on your Instagram, sort of some of your World Cups you had traveling to and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it just sort of, I guess you're on the road a lot together, so you can't help but have fun together a lot of the times.
Yeah, exactly. Like you spend much time with these guys, they kind of end up like a small family. And there's nothing usually to complain too much about when you're over there traveling and racing. So it's hard not to have a good time. And Sevi and I usually spend a lot of time together and room together and stuff. So we've become pretty close over the years. Yeah.
In terms of other nations, like, does Australia have a cross-country skiing rivalry with anyone? Because I mean, like, I'd like to think it's the freaking Norwegians and the Finns and all the dominant nations, but I mean, they probably don't even look at us, sadly, with any serious. Like, do you have to look at some other sort of nations closer to us and go like, well, if I'm beating the Kiwis, if I'm beating the Azerbaijanis, that we're having a good day today?
Like we obviously haven't got like a strong history of rivalries like that, but as time's gone by, we've had small rivalries. Like when I was younger, there were some New Zealand guys that we'd always like to try and knock off, and then we've always had a pretty good relationship with the Brits. So if we can get close to them or knock them off, that's a pretty good thing as well. But it's our rivalry is pretty small scale and usually just with the other nations that are competing sort of around us. Yeah.
I always like to ask that because I find random rivalries in random sports. Like I think, for example, like artistic swimming, we have a very big rivalry with Egypt. And like what sport does Australia have a rivalry with Egypt in? So it's kind of like thinking like, so, along that way. But we always want to beat the Kiwis and the Brits, right? I mean, how are the Brits in cross-country skiing? I don't ever really associate the Brits with cross-country skiing.
No, well, you wouldn't. But and historically, for I guess a long time, they weren't that good at cross-country skiing. But they've got quite a few, or they've got about 4 or 5 guys at the moment who are going really well.
Right.
And even getting podiums on the World Cup.
Oh, wow.
Sort of in the last 5-10 years. Yeah, so, like Andrew Musgrave, Andrew Young, Jimmy Cougnet, those guys, they're all really high up in the sport at the moment. But maybe before those guys, historically, they haven't been a strong cross-country nation. But those guys, they're probably just good examples of individuals who have succeeded because they've moved to Norway and sort of taken it upon themselves to grow and get better. Whereas I wouldn't say that those few guys are a real accurate representation of Great Britain within the sport.
Is it a jarring, is it random tangent, but I'm coming back to what I'm trying to ask you, Phil. I'm going to the Olympics in February, and one of the tickets I've got, for example, is biathlon. I didn't sadly get cross-country tickets, but, biathlon. And as an Australian, who has never really seen some of these sports in person, I can imagine it's going to be a very unique experience for me to witness that amount of people cheering on skiing, where in Australia we would not get that many amount of people. But is it jarring for you, or do you remember that very first time when you go to Europe and you go to one of these big events where, if it's in Norway or something like that, where they're getting, tens of thousands of people to an event that in Australia we could only dream of getting that many people to a cross-country skiing event?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's kind of mind blowing, and you don't realize it until you see it and stand in front of it and ski through it. Really, but yeah, I remember those early years when, yeah, it was pretty mind blowing and almost a bit confronting to have to go and ski in front of that many people. But yeah, it's also pretty awesome. Like it should be a pretty amazing experience for you as well watching on. Because the biathlon should generate a pretty big crowd. It's good because, like in Europe, a lot of the traditional sports are still viewed perhaps a bit more higher than what they are here in Australia or North America. So, like the big crowds or the sports that pull big crowds are sort of like the alpine skiing and cross country and ski jumping, that sort of thing, which is cool for us.
Which I love seeing, like those traditional ones. Like, no disrespect to sort of the newer sports, and obviously we're about to talk about a newer sport that's very new next year at the Olympics, Phil. But like, it's sort of, that's where I love to see that level. It's not even in the Summer Olympics that, athletics is always going to be that one, right? Swimming, they're always going to be the ones that people associate it with. So the alpine skiing, the freestyle skiing, not so much, but like Nordic and all those kind of ones as well. So I'm looking for, do I need to pack extra cowbells? I just keep thinking about how many cowbells I might need to bring to Italy next year. Yeah,
possibly. It's always good to have a few of those on the sidelines.
Yeah, I just
love that.
Never quite been in the market for a cowbell before, but has to add it to my list.
Time.
Exactly. I mean, over your 3 Olympic appearances, so 3 events in Sochi, 4 in Pyeongchang, 5 events in Beijing, Phil. I mean, obviously increased it there. I wanted to touch on the 50K because I remember that one that they essentially, the weather was so bad they had to shorten it to the 30Ks. Because of how the weather was in Beijing. How is that for an athlete that you're preparing for a longer distance to shorten? I mean, on paper, I would think, great, less work. But I mean, obviously you have to train yourself to a point where you're going for the further distance. So is that extra difficult that you're doing less distance, or does it make it a little bit easier that, okay, I don't have to work as hard today. I only have to do 30 instead of 50K?
Yeah, like, of course it's shorter, so the distance is less, and that in itself is less work. But for me, I was quite disappointed that they shortened it because it changes the way the race unfolds. Because with a 50K, the pace is much lower because it's longer, or you can sit in the group like a cycling race and sort of hang on to the peloton, or it's easier to. Whereas as soon as they change it to a 30K, the pace of the race is much higher from the start. And so it's harder for me, being a bigger guy and more suited to sprinting, it's harder for me to hang on to the group for as long. So I've, in the past, historically had good races in sprint races, and then also the very longer races like the 50K, because the intensity is lower and so you can sit in the group. So I personally was pretty disappointed that they made that change, but I could sort of see why they did it, as frustrating as it was. Yeah, the weather was pretty horrific. And it was right on the cusp of like the legal limit of being too cold.
Right.
I think if it's under 19 degrees, then they can't run the race because you're at risk of like damaging your lungs and that sort of stuff. So I think the reason it was shortened is because it was around that limit, and ridiculously windy as well.
Which I remember, I was working for Channel 7 doing research for them, and I have this vivid memory of, I think it was one of the days towards the end of the Olympics when there was an event on, and they were like, oh, there's not a lot we're showing tonight. Let's put some, cross-country skiing on the main channel rather than putting it on the, the digital channel there. And then they're basically just scrambling to get a commentator. Like, who wants to do this? Like, all right, give me like 2 hours. I'll do some research for some from cross country skiing, and it's amazing to see them how quickly they work and get on there, and then all of a sudden you got cross country skiing on prime time. So are you then sort of getting messages from home going like, great, this is on the main channels now. I don't have to go on the app to find this. We can watch you prime time here in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big difference between my previous Olympics and Beijing, is that, yeah, we actually got shown on, as you say, prime time. And so we just got a lot more exposure and people actually saw what was going on. And then, yeah, I got a lot of people messaging me and, congratulating me and whatnot. So that was a really big positive for us. Yeah.
50th in the sprint, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the highest finish ever by a male in that event in the history of the Olympics. Paul Murray was 51st in 2006. So one spot ahead. So you got there in the top 50. Does that mean much to you to sort of look back at that and go, well, I've got that record now. I'm the highest ever male Australian to finish in that event at an Olympic Games?
Yeah, I guess. It's pretty cool to have that, I guess. I don't really think about that too much. Yeah, no, yeah. I guess in the World Cups and stuff prior to the Olympics, I've had some results which were a little bit better than that. So there was part of me at the Olympics that I've raced at that I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't actually have my best race possible at the Olympics. Like I've always felt like I've had slightly better shape right before the Olympics than when I was at the Olympics. So it was a little bit of frustration with that, but of course, happy to have a decent result for sure.
In terms of just overall Olympic experiences, we always like to ask our guest Phil just, other things you get soaked up into. So pin trading, fun stories in the food halls, things like that. I mean, do you get involved in that sort of stuff in between events to kind of, have a bit of fun? And has that advanced a lot over your 3 Olympics? Maybe you do a few things differently
now. Yeah, I've been involved in the pin trading for sure. I actually had a bit of an event happen with the pin trading when I was in Pyeongchang. I was getting into the pin trading, but the cleaners stole some of my pins.
What? They stole them? Wow.
Yeah, I had the pin cushion that they supplied with all the pins on it.
Yeah.
And it was like an official Pyeongchang Olympic pin thing on the corner of it. And then one day after the cleaners had been in, that had been ripped out and my heart rate monitor watch was gone. So,
oh no. Wow.
Some people value the pins maybe a bit more than I do.
Yeah. Do you report it? Is there like, village police or something you can go to?
No, I don't know. I just kind of had a bit of a laugh and just kept going about my business. But
wow. Jeez.
Yeah, obviously some people take it seriously.
Yeah.
I get into that, and I was really into it the first Olympics, and maybe not so much the last one, but it's always pretty fun to sort of get to know the other athletes and live in the village with them all. It's pretty cool.
Is it because cross-country skiing sometimes, obviously a bit away from sort of where maybe a lot of the other events are. So it's generally they're satellite villages. I mean, are there ever occasions where you actually get to stay sort of in the main village at all?
Yeah, the first 2 Olympics we were off sort of by ourselves, not so much with everyone else. But in Beijing, we were with all the mountain sports. So, all the freestyle skiers, all the alpine skiers, anything that wasn't like on the ice and that sort of thing. We were staying with them. So we were in the big village, which was great because I got to know a lot of the other athletes, especially on the Australian team, which was really cool. And because there was no spectators, people weren't going off and hanging out with friends and family so much. So it meant you were just in the village for the full 3 weeks, hanging out with just the athletes and the staff, really. So, yeah, you really got to know everyone pretty well in Beijing, which was quite unique to that event.
And I've always asked the Aussie athletes from Beijing just that mood, because obviously, very successful, our most successful Olympics ever in terms of medals, total medals won at a Winter Games, and just the vibe in general and how close the, 40 of you basically were. Like, I mean, how was that mood overall, particularly as you're saying, you can hang out with some of these other athletes who, were doing very well at those Olympics?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, really, because everyone was there living in such close quarters where everyone was sort of aware of what everyone else was doing, and you knew which days other athletes were competing on, and you'd all sort of meet in the athlete hangout area, this little dining roomy thing, and you'd all kind of watch each other at each other's events, and you'd see each other have success and whatever, and everyone was really getting behind each other, which was pretty amazing. Yeah, it was quite different to the other Olympics in that regard. And yeah, it was just super positive because people were having a bit of success. Everyone was sort of up and about, yeah, with the mood and the vibe and stuff.
Love to hear it. That's what we definitely love to see. And fingers crossed it's going to happen again in a couple of months' time in Italy. What happened after Beijing, Phil? Because I believe you retired, but now all of a sudden we're about to go to Italy and possibly in two different sports. So what changed, in this direction? And tell us about sort of this discovery and pursuit of ski mountaineering as well.
Yeah, I mean, for a period directly after Beijing, I was, in my mind, I'd mentally stopped. I'd retired, I guess. And I guess for every Olympics I'd been to, I'd thought that I would retire and be done, and this one even more so. But then I guess sort of just trying to get into a normal life and routine and that sort of stuff, I guess maybe wasn't super fulfilling. And I also kind of got handed this opportunity to give ski mountaineering a go. So I'd been watching that space, the ski mountaineering world a bit, just because I knew that it was possibly going to come into the Olympics as a new sport. And I'd tried it like once before. I'd done this bit of a fun race and kind of went okay. And I just knew sort of the ins and outs of the sport a bit and what it would take to be good at it. And I'd seen the similarities between cross-country skiing. So I thought, well, I may as well give it a go. And basically the head director of cross-country skiing, Finn Marsland, he took on the role as being the director of ski mountaineering. And so there was kind of nothing really set up in Australia to make this happen. Like we didn't even have a ski mountaineering sort of ski federation or anything like that. There was no staff, there was no coach, nothing. No one had ever done anything before, like for Australia in that space. So it was very much starting from scratch. And so I guess Finn kind of took on the organisational role, and it was myself and another Australian-born American girl, Kate Zander, who went and raced some races for Australia on the World Cup for the first time. When was that? It would have been 2022, 23 Northern Hemisphere winter. And it didn't go too badly for me. Like the first few races, I really finished towards the back of the field. Didn't quite come last, but like I showed a little bit of promise. And from then on, I was kind of like, I'll give this a go and see it through. And I guess kind of went from strength to strength a little bit to the point where it looked like we were going to be in the running to get an Olympic start. And then I really kind of got stuck in and committed to it and have seen it through.
Yeah. And then the switch back into continuing on cross country, was it just sort of a competitive desire, or kind of like what sort of led you into this pursuit now that you're trying to get into both for next year?
Yeah, well, like the first year I was doing ski mountaineering, I was still racing cross country because the World Championships were in mountaineer, and I wanted to give that a go as well. And I just didn't really know how the ski mountaineering was going to turn out. And I guess it was almost a bit of a safety net in case the ski mountaineering went badly. I still had something to do and go be successful at, I guess. Anyway, I then committed more to ski mountaineering in the next season. But then this season just been, the World Championships for cross country were in Norway. And so like that's huge for the sport and was going to be like, in my mind, the biggest event for cross country skiing in my lifetime.
Mm.
So I didn't want to miss out on that. So I then was racing cross country and ski mountaineering last season. And I just wanted to see if maybe it was possible to do both. And I think it is, not without a challenge. But yeah, like I'm going to give it a go. I'm aware it might not all work out and maybe I'll fall on my face a little bit and not qualify for one or both or either or something like that. But I also just wanted to give it a crack and just see how it played out.
Because there's just so many levels of history to this if it works out for you, Phil, because no Australian has ever competed at the same Winter Olympics in two different sports. Jenny Owens did it in two different sports over separate Olympics, but never over in the same one. And no Australian has done it since 1968 at the Olympics, overall, the Summer Olympics. And I believe that was Peter Mackin and Duncan Page, who were in fencing and modern pentathlon at the same Olympics. Okay. So there you go. There's your fact of the day. But how is this logistically? Like, do you have to like literally just have an entire weekend to work out a spreadsheet and look at lots of maps, lots of flights? How can I get from here to there and everything along those lines to balance the two sort of circuits?
Yeah, it's a lot. And that's been the hardest thing really, is balancing the two different circuits, because to qualify for the Olympics, you need to be racing on the World Cup circuit for each sport, basically.
Mm.
And there's a lot of clashes that come up. And yeah, you basically need to overlay both the sports onto a calendar and see where the qualification events are and prioritize some and not others and stuff like that. So, for example, like the final qualification race for ski mountaineering, skipping and not even racing to race the cross-country qualification races on the World Cup. So, yeah, it's not without a challenge, and that's what I meant by maybe I'll kind of fall on my face a little bit more, because I've kind of spread my eggs too far between two baskets at times, rather than committing to one. It's definitely a case that if I focused on one of the two sports, I would be better at it rather than splitting my focus between the two. But I guess that's part of the challenge of it all as well, like to see if I could do both. But yeah, as for the history of it all, I try not to think about that too much, and I didn't actually really know all of those facts that you just quoted there. So
Channel 9 are going to ramp at home if you make both. Don't worry, Phil. You'll hear a lot more of it in the coming months, So,
well, yeah, we'll see. I'm trying not to get caught up in that, I guess. But I guess the thing is, where things are situated at the moment, it's looking likely that I'll qualify ski mountaineering, but the cross-country qualification is much harder, and it's probably, it's definitely not a guarantee, and it's almost a little bit unlikely that I would qualify for the cross-country, as much as that people might think that I'd be more likely to qualify for that, just the way the criteria is and the way that other guys are skiing as well, and how many spots we've got and all that sort of stuff. It's definitely going to be challenging, and probably more challenging to qualify for cross-country than ski mountaineering. So I'll get tied up in that if I get the privilege of going to both, I guess.
Yeah, because I was going to say on the ski mountaineering side of things, World Championships earlier this year, you were highest ranked Australian male, 48th, and then 52nd as well in the Olympic test event in Bormio. So tracking very well. And through everybody that we've had on this show from ski mountaineering, they talk you up. They're talking about sort of what you're doing and sort of you going out there and that sort of stuff. But I mean, that in itself, the history aside of what I just said, you qualify for ski mountaineering, you will always go down as the first ever Australian male ski mountaineerer. So that's a little history in itself, obviously, to look at that. But I mean, how do you find the sport? Like, how is it an easy transition from cross-country skiing? Are you sort of enjoying that, something, a little bit more fresh after so many years of doing the one sport, that you can sort of try something a little bit different?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm really enjoying, just a different circuit, different locations, different races, different people to work with, different athletes. Like, it's been really refreshing to do that. And that's part of the reason why I was able to continue on because things were getting a bit stale for me, and I didn't really see huge prospects for myself getting better in cross country skiing. So that was the side of the ski mountaineering that I did look forward to. Um, so yeah, that's been great. Um, and yeah, as for being the first Australian, that's I guess just a bit of icing on the cake, really.
Mm.
Yeah.
And this is, you said in the interview you did with the Australian Olympic team's website about the clashes that, if you do qualify for both, that essentially only two of your events will clash in one day. So essentially you can go between the two sports, but you said that the one that clashes, you would miss the 50K Classic because that connects with the ski mountaineering mixed relay. And I was trying to look at this on a map myself, Phil, to see like how logistically you're going to do this anyway. But the Bormio and Tesoro, the two locations, are about 166 kilometres apart from each other. It's about a 3-hour drive. So is this just a case of you need to have a very fast Italian in a Ferrari to take you between these places in between days? Or, as a quadruple Olympian by then, do you get like helicopter privileges or something like that? Scotty James has probably got some connections you could probably, jump onto him with or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be nice, as with the Italian fast driver. No, like basically the program kind of works out almost as well as it possibly could have. Like there's 5 or so cross country events, and there's only one that will clash. So you can almost race a full cross country program, and then you drive across. I'm assuming that I'd get a van or something across there, and then race the 2 ski mountaineering events, just missing the 50K for cross country. So it's quite feasible to do both. As much as I'd like to do the 50K, it's not a huge loss to me if I don't, because I have done that event before. And it's just the ski mountaineering would probably mean more to me in Australia, and also my teammate if I get to go. Like,
she kind of needs you
in a team event. Yeah, you're in a team event. That kind of trumps the individual event, I guess, of the cross country. So I guess it's an easy decision to make.
Yeah.
And logistically, it's not that ridiculous to make it happen. There's no back and forth. It's just race cross country events, drive 3 hours, then onto ski mountaineering if it's going to play out that way.
It's not like it's, you've got one on a Monday, back to cross country on a Tuesday, back to SkiMo on a Wednesday. It's sort of not quite that logistically impossible. But it's still just such an incredible sort of thing to look at and go across, and just the history. And obviously we're crossing all these fingers and toes for you, Phil, to do. Because I believe you are the only athlete doing this. Like there's no other athletes from any other countries trying to do both cross country skiing and ski mountaineering for the Olympics.
No, there's not. I'm the only one. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. We're mad fans of Esther Ledecker on this show. When she won obviously the gold in both snowboarding and alpine skiing back in Pyeongchang, and then competed in both again awesome. In Beijing. Yeah. So you're up there on Esther levels with us, Phil, with this. Like
thank you.
Come on. Like this is just an epic sort of journey to do that. We're going to get into our wrap-up questions in just a moment, Phil, but a little birdie told me in an interview that we had, and we brought you up, there's 2 things that we discovered through an interview with her. I'm talking, of course, about Anika here. She said to mention about your love of whitewater rafting and canoeing, which I do see on your Instagram. You've had a recent trip where you've obviously had a bit of adventures with that. But this is a bit of a passion out there. Or is this a third sport? Or are you going to be giving Jess Fox a run for her money into Summer Olympics maybe in the future?
I'd love to, but no. I guess after Beijing cross-country skiing, when that kind of came to an end, I took up whitewater kayaking. I pretty randomly, just ended up on a weekend trip away with some people who were doing this whitewater kayaking thing, and I'd always wanted to give it a go. So I jumped in a boat, and I guess I miserably fell out of it most of the time and swam down the river. But I absolutely loved it, and then kind of kept going. And I've got a friend here, my mate Dalen in Mount Beauty, who absolutely loves it. And I got onto him pretty soon after that. And I guess I kind of applied my mindset that I had towards cross-country skiing towards getting good at whitewater kayaking. And just did it every day and trained pretty hard for it, and I guess got better quite quickly, and have just been kind of chasing that all over Australia and the world a little bit in the time off from skiing. Yeah, it's become a pretty narrow more passion of mine, let's say.
Nice to do something in the warmer weather too, I can imagine, rather than always having to be around cold weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I definitely,
sure.
there's a cross, like, you go to a fourth Olympics, you become a 4-time Olympian. Jess Fox, 4-time Olympian. Like, there's some level of whether you're Channel 9, the AOC, like, can't we do some sort of cross platform there, get you to paddle alongside of her and then get her some skis, get her to do some SkiMo or some cross country skiing. I mean, that sells itself. I'll be front row ticket to see that happen.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if she's a skier or not, but that'd be a bit of fun, yeah.
Yeah, her parents are, where mum's French. Surely there was some skiing in her childhood at somewhere, right? Come on.
Surely, yeah. You'd think so, yeah.
You'd think so. There has to be one there. The other one I wanted to touch on that Anika brought up, it's my new favourite Instagram account, is the Not Oz SkiMo Instagram account, Phil. This is just an absolute blast. And in particular, the one you had your face photoshopped onto our good friend Max Trion's body in a lovely little post there. There's some videos with cows. I mean, this is just fun. Like, there's going back to the fun you're having with the cross country skis. The SkiMo athletes are having all the fun as well.
Yeah, I guess it's just a little bit of a piss take, and someone had set up a Australian SkiMo account, and for a while no one could figure out who it was, and so everyone on the team sort of made this counter account to that one, and they just posted, I guess, dumb stuff, and it's all just a bit of fun, and I guess it kind of it just reflects the way the team is, I guess, as well. Like, they all get on pretty well, and they just enjoy having a laugh and carrying on a bit, so it's all good. Yeah,
it's hilarious. As people check it out on Instagram, Not Oz SkiMo. It's fantastic. Phil, we wrap up every chat now with a set of get to know you style questions, 10 random ones that will learn more about you and have a bit of fun with it. I'm going to start with the number one thing that you never leave home without when traveling to a competition.
Oh, holy. Pair of ski boots, I guess.
Yeah, it probably helps to
pretty helpful. Yeah,
strap into the skis. You might be lost without those.
I have turned up without them before. So,
what do you do in those situations? You just suck it up or borrow someone else's.
Try and find that fast driving Italian.
Yeah, get the Ferrari ready to go. Basically,
exactly.
A traditional superstition that you follow before every big competition.
It's funny because I've become very unsuperstitious. I used to wear like lucky underwear. Like, I used to make sure I always had a favorite pair of undies on, but now I've become not very superstitious at all, really.
That's a superstition I feel in itself, is to not be superstitious.
Well, that's what I've tried to do. I've tried to become, not superstitious and try and perform every day, because it's so often that things don't go to plan and don't go right that you've kind of got to rise above it. So I've really tried to go away from that, I guess.
Yeah, that counts. That's an answer. Actually, the one question I wanted to ask you, this isn't one of our 10, but I do love on your official page on the cross-country skiing, gives all your results and World Cup performance and everything like that. It's listed your hobby as crocodile wrestling, Phil. So is just something you like to do out there at Mount Beauty? Lots of crocodiles there ready to sort of fight off and have a bit of a wrestle with?
Well, not actually at all, really. I've never had anything to do with crocodiles, but that was my coach, or I guess the director, Finn Marsland, put that up on my profile back in 2013 for my first World Championships. He thought that was a bit of a laugh, and the commentators did actually that up at one point. So he was successful in that. But yeah, actually no ties to that at all, just having a bit of a laugh.
I do love it that whenever you go to obviously like an Olympics and you got the official news service, right, and they go out of their way to put so many facts on there, like Phil enjoys knitting on a Saturday or something like that. They've dug up from an old post. So I'm sure that is definitely so, because I'm sure Americans believe that more than anyone, right? You're at somewhere in America and like, oh my God, Phil Bellingham was crocodile wrestling. Yeah,
it's funny actually how many times it's been brought up since then. So I think he just leaves it up there just for that.
Absolutely. Do it. Keep teasing the people.
Yeah.
I love that. A song that is on every single one of your pre-competition playlists, no matter what.
Dizzy Rascal, Dance With Me.
Oh, banger. Yes. Good
Yeah.
song. I like that. Just gets you in the zone, does it? And just gets you ready to
It
go?
does, yeah.
Oh, great song. That needs to be played more. Love that. The most unexpected or funny DM that you have ever gotten as an Olympian?
Oh, yeah, you get some random ones. Yeah, I haven't got an exact one, but it definitely brings people out of the woodwork. You get a lot of random messages from people you haven't spoken to and that sort of stuff, and just random people. You often get people asking for a signed bib.
Okay.
They think that you're just going to give away your Olympic bib and sign it and send it to them. Like the amount of times I've had that, and it's like, God, I've only got like one or two or three maybe from each time I've been, and these random people just think it's going to give it to them.
Wow. It's crazy to think that just people have the goals to just ask that. Like, and generally, like, I know, like I say, like for runners, for example, I know often the bibs are more precious than, say, some of the things they, frame and everything like that. And are bibs like that to you? Like, just sort of you treat them like very, keepsakes that you like to have?
Yeah, absolutely. Like you only get one race bib per event. And so, yeah, like, and you try and give some away, like as athletes with like, as part of the cross country team, we've tried to always give one between the team members, like one to the coach and one to each of the wax techs and support staff that have been there as part of the Olympics. So by the time you give a couple away and you don't really have that many, you've probably only got one or two left to keep for yourself.
Yeah.
So they're pretty important. Like that's the one thing that you really get to keep as a good memento.
Sure, if that gets stolen from your room rather than the pin, you're going to be a little bit more concerned than the pin.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be mad. And so naturally enough, I'm not just going to post it in the mail to some random person.
Yeah. Sorry, people messaging Phil. There's your answer.
Yeah.
The answer is no. You may not have one of his bibs. He'll sign something else. Sign a coaster or something like that. One of your crocodile wrestling tickets or, things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
The weirdest thing you've ever eaten at an international competition, and did you like it?
You often get a lot of random meat when you go to places like Russia and Estonia.
Yep.
So there's been some times there where you're eating meat that you don't even know what you're eating.
The mystery meat, have a guess.
The mystery meat, yeah. There's a lot of that, and I wouldn't say I love it, but that just goes with the culture, I guess.
Yeah. You just got to take it there. We always often get China and Norway are the fun answers on this one when it comes to that. Although I do love the stories. Jaden Lawrence, a wrestler, told the great story of him drinking horse milk and how basically horse milk was fizzy. It was like drinking carbonated water. And he said he would never have that again. So, we're learning a lot about the cultures from around the world. No, I do not recommend horse milk is what I've been told. But on the good side of food, Phil, what is your ultimate guilty pleasure meal after a big competition?
Oh, look, when I'm in race mode, like I can't go past good lasagna or bolognese.
Oh, good answer.
But my all-time, especially because I'm not in Australia a lot of the time, is just a chicken parmigiana.
Oh, yes.
So anytime I'm back in the country, that's my first go-to, and I try and load up on those.
It's one of those things, isn't it, that when you are overseas, that when you think of Australian cuisine, we don't necessarily have the most, diverse in the world, but there are just some of those staples that you think to yourself, like, you can get chicken parmigiana in other countries, but it's not the Australian one, right? Like, it's just
exactly
not the same. It's like a dim sim. Australian Chinese food, right? Like it's just something going to your corner store and getting it. Good answer. If you could swap
the dim sims.
Oh God, yes, right? Just I was trying to track one down. I moved to Melbourne and I was trying to just track down none of these fancy proper ones that you get like in authentic Asian restaurants. I just want the trashy shit ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't give me authentic shit. I want fake shit. That's all I wanted.
Yeah, you're talking my language, mate.
If you could swap sports for a day with another Olympian, what event would you choose and how do you think you'd go?
I'd have to say surfing.
Yep.
Surfing is a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine. And I wouldn't go that great, but I'd love to be there. That'd be the next sport I'd choose.
It'd be a fun one. Again, getting away from the winters, right? You chase the sun exactly in that way.
Exactly.
Love this one. If your Olympic journey were a movie, what would the title be and who would play you?
Oh. The title would probably be The Aussie Battler. Who would play me? I don't know. I can't answer that one.
I think
I'm not that well versed on enough movie stars.
I think someone like a Sam Worthington, might play you quite well, or a Joel Edgerton, sort of one of these, Australian actors who are very like laid back. They're not your Nicole Kidmans or your Hugh Jackmans, but they're still, out there enough that I think they could pull that off. I'm gonna.
That might be the go.
I've got. So we get ChatGPT to generate a movie poster, Phil. Now I'm going to get this changed to the Aussie Battler, but the one that we went with when they suggested some titles, they weren't very good. Let's be honest, but they went with Two Roads to Gold: A Journey for the Olympic Dream, and this is the poster that they generated with you there. It's pretty basic. There you are. Sort of
good.
Skiing along that one there. Nothing on the ski mountain. I guess there's a giant mountain behind you, but they've just got going there on the flats there. But we'll get that changed up. We'll have the Aussie Battle. That one works better than that one. So we'll see what that looks like. The one question you're tired of being asked, and what is the one that you wish people would ask you instead?
Oh, the one you get tired of being asked when you're overseas is like, oh, does Australia actually have snow? Or like, I didn't know Australia had snow. Where do you ski in Australia? That's probably the one I get tired of. Whereas I guess I'd prefer to just be asked, like, how do you manage to be a skier from Australia or something like that?
Rephrase it a little bit to make it.
Yeah, just rephrase that one, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, because it is still interesting, isn't it, that is a question that it's just like, just pull up Wikipedia. Look, like, we've won Olympic medals. Like, this isn't just something we're showing up to. We're pretty good at this too, right? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
The Aussie Battler, like, we're punching above our weight. Like, this is what we do.
Exactly.
This is the way we do it.
Stop living under a rock.
Exactly, right? Come on. It's just turn it. If it's bloody Norwegians doing, we always like to bag out the Norwegians on this show, but like, I mean, question them, like, why are you winning medals in triathlon? Do you have sun in, Norway? Like, what's going on here?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, come on, people. The last one. This is the deep one Phil ended on. What is the one lesson you've learnt from losing that you think has shaped you more than winning?
That it doesn't matter if you win at all. Probably. Yeah, I guess from losing, as you say, you learn a lot more from losing than you ever would from winning. Mm-hmm. So as much as you want to win, everyone wants to win. Losing's not actually that bad in itself.
Builds character, right?
I've learned a lot. Hey?
Builds character.
Exactly. I've learned more from losing than I ever have from winning. So
good answer. That's why we always ended on that one there. Phil, absolute honour to have you on the show, mate. If people want to sort of follow your journey between now, Milano Cortina, and beyond, because I mean, I want to think you've gone on to your 5th, your 6th, your 7th Olympics. Keep on going. Be the John Farnham of cross country and SkiMo. Just always retire and then keep coming back. But social media, where can they follow your journey?
Yeah, on Instagram, I guess, is probably where I post the most. Phil Bell is my handle there. But that's sort of probably the only place I really post at all, really.
Not on TikTok yet? Haven't gone the TikTok route?
Nah, haven't found myself over there yet.
Yet.
Stay posted.
As I'm saying, yet is the big word there, right? Like, come on,
exactly.
Helps out that moving forward. Phil, mate, though, best of luck. We're crossing all the fingers and toes and everything that you can be there in both sports, because this would be an absolutely outstanding achievement. 4th Olympics in 2 different sports. Amazing to think that is possible. But best of luck, and thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for having me. It's been amazing.